She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
All right, I love me a good intermittent fasting story, and now I'm understanding you and your husband both are champions of this way of eating. Renee, tell me how you got started with intermittent fasting.
Well, I had a friend who had mentioned that she was intermittent fasting probably a year before I did research to look into it. And I didn't really pay much attention in the conversation about it. I just remember that word stuck out once later when I was doing research. So in January of 2021, I just found myself at I was obese, and I was worried about what was going to happen if I kept going on the path that I was going. Because I would say the previous 7 years or so, I was gaining about 5 pounds every year consistently for doing nothing different than I had been doing all of the years before. It just all of a sudden started coming on. And I got to the point of wondering, like, what is going to happen if I keep gaining 5 to 10 pounds every year? Like, when is this going to stop? So I chalked it up to, it must have been hormonal changes that were happening that started around age 39. And so I was kind of doing some Google searches about how you could regulate your hormones naturally. And Gin Stevens' Delay, Don't Deny ended up coming up in that search. And then when I clicked on that and I saw intermittent fasting, then that reminded me back to my friend who had mentioned that she had done intermittent fasting and had lost weight. So I was like, well, what a bonus. And then that's basically how I started. I downloaded the Audible version and I listened to her book in about a 2-day period. And on February 1st of 2021, I began my journey. So it's been just a little over a year.
Didn't it make so much sense to you when
It
you
did.
heard her break it down and
It
how
did.
we've been lied to, we've been misled, calories in, calories out wasn't working for us?
Right.
It was such an epiphany when I think everybody, when we are introduced to this way of eating, because we don't call it a diet. It's not a
Right.
diet.
Right.
I don't know what you eat or I eat, doesn't matter. You kind of paused, Renee, when you said the word obese. Was that a hard word to use to describe yourself?
I think I knew that I was overweight, but it wasn't until around that time when I was starting to do a little more research and really looking into things that I realized that I was actually obese. Just a little quick back history. I was never a dieter my whole entire life. I coined myself as an anti-dieter, and that just stems back to my mom was a lifelong dieter that I watched, and I don't know, I just never wanted to do that. And so I never had. And while I had some retained weight after each one of my pregnancies, it was never enough to bother me to do anything differently. It wasn't until I started just gaining this weight for no apparent reason, and then once that all added up, that it really started to bother me. But I guess I didn't realize I was obese. I just knew that I was overweight, I guess is what I would say. It was eye-opening when I was looking up things like BMI and things like that and realizing I'm actually obese.
Well, those aren't actually, necessarily objective data, because we know that, but it is a plumb line to show you that your trajectory isn't moving well.
No.
So with that, you don't have to tell me the number you started with, but how much weight have you lost in the 2 years since, did you say 2021?
2021. So it's just over
a year ago.
Yep.
Okay. Tell me how much weight you've lost in over a year.
52 pounds.
Wow.
So I started at 198.6 and I'm 5'5". So right now I hang out in the upper 140s, like 148 was what I was today. So yeah.
What is, because the number in our mind isn't necessarily what's going to be on the scale, because body recomposition is important.
Right.
Muscle mass is important. Age is important.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a number or do you have a size that's your dream size or weight?
So funny enough, when I started, the number that I started with was higher than where I'm at, because that already seemed like it was going to be a big task to get to. So I'm lower than that. If I go back to like when I was in college or when I got married, I weighed 135 pounds. So I'm still more than that. Do I think that I will get down to 135 pounds, or could I? Maybe. But in a way, it doesn't seem realistic. I feel comfortable how I am right now.
Great.
So I feel like I'm not necessarily trying to lose weight anymore. If I happen to, I will, but I'm kind of saying that I'm in maintenance right now. I lost the bulk of it, I would say, in 9 months. And then of course, then the holidays came, and my goal for over the holidays, and holidays for me was starting on Halloween and going all the way through New Year's, was just to maintain. That was my
Yes, it's
goal.
a season.
Right. So I thought if I could maintain, which I did during that whole time, then great. And then I thought after the holidays, I'll see, will things kind of start moving again a little bit? And they did a teeny bit, but overall, I just kind of feel like my body has found a happy spot. So I'm sort of thinking maybe I'm moving into maintenance mode. Yeah.
And that's the thing, Renee, I know you can agree with this about intermittent fasting. And Jen so famously coined, it's a health plan with a side effect of weight loss. So we're just abiding by a health plan, and weight has fallen off. So our body lands kind of where our body lands.
Right.
And that's why for you, you're saying, I might not see the 135, but I'm comfortable in this. You know, I'm you know, because you were saying it was a 7-year period. You were gaining at least 5 pounds a year.
Right.
For those. So that's 35 pounds. Well, you knock those off. You're probably close to your pregnancy weights, or right before you got pregnant, or after you've been married a few years.
Well, I was 135 probably when I got pregnant with my first one. And then, you know, maybe 10 or 15 pounds hung around after her, but I was fine with that. So yes, maybe I'm at where my post-pregnancy after my first child. So yeah. And those, once I got to 39 and those 5 pounds and 5 pounds, I probably didn't even pay attention for the first 2 years to that. But then it just kept happening. And then it, you know, really became concerning after a while. And my mom has hypothyroidism. And so I've had all of that stuff. I was going in, I'm a nurse, a former nurse in the ICU. And so I've always been really in tune with my health. And so I go to regular checkups and have my blood work checked and all of that. And I was doing all of those things thinking like, maybe this is the reason why I'm gaining weight, and maybe that. And honestly, what I think that it is I think that how we as Americans eat normally, not IF, it just caught up with me over time. And I wasn't really even a big eater. I've never been a person who has a huge appetite. I never was a really big breakfast eater. Sometimes I would eat breakfast later in the morning, maybe 9, 10, because I felt like I should, but it wasn't what I was, though, a consumer of liquids all day long. So while maybe I'm not eating tons of excess food in the day, I was spiking my insulin all day long, starting from the moment that I woke up. And my big thing was pop soda. We call it pop here. Pop, I'd be cracking a can of pop by 8 a.m. and sipping pop, 4 to 5 cans a day, all day long. And I just think over time, my body was just not accepting that anymore. It was like, you have just worn it out having your insulin up all day long. And maybe it wasn't from overeating food, but it was definitely from over consuming even liquids all day long on top of the food.
Well, Jen would talk about nursing a diet soda all afternoon.
Right.
Because we were told that was righteous, Renee. We were told that you could get up and have a Diet Coke if you were doing diet beverages, which we know now are carcinogenic. I mean, you know, and they break your bones down. If you have osteoporosis, throw away your diet sodas. I can tell you that. This is not medical advice. That is just simple advice, right? And
Yeah.
we didn't realize that the long-term effects of, I remember I thought Splenda was a wonderful thing. I thought I could bake brownies. I could do all these things. We didn't know, if we're trusting the science, we didn't know the science of Splenda. For one thing, again, a chemical. I wouldn't have that now if you put a gun to my head.
Right.
But we just didn't know better because the media, though, gets a bad rap. That's a whole nother discussion. But at that time, the media really did just have one platform, and it was what was on our television or what we heard on the radio. And the television told us to drink a Diet Coke. Milk does a body good, all these things, right? That now I
Right.
kind of go, not so sure, because now there are alternative channels for us to get our information, like intermittent fasting or
Right.
whatever else you're looking for. So I'm just telling anybody listening, the status quo hasn't worked because we're fatter now than we were a year ago. I remember New York City, they never took salt off the tables. Well, that hadn't helped because you know what?
Right.
We need salt.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started putting calories. They said, that's it. We're going to put calories in all fast food restaurants. That will deter the population. Well, calories, I mean, you and I know, really don't matter. I mean, they do in some respects, but what we're talking about, what they need to do is put insulin, and how this spikes your insulin. When you drink the Diet Coke with 0 calories, you just spiked your insulin. So you stopped any type of fat burning.
Right.
And
Right.
that was such news to me. That's why I've really, pardon the pun, devoured this, is because this now for my body makes sense. And that's what you're saying.
Exactly.
You're saying I really didn't eat a lot, so I didn't have a bit. See, that's the thing about hypothyroidism. When I remember when I was diagnosed and I had gained about 15 pounds, and it was about 20 years ago, late 30s, and he just patted me on the legs, and I needed a B vitamin, and I needed to reduce my calories to 1,200. And I said, I don't think you understand. I don't know calories, but I said, I really don't eat that much because when when your thyroid is low, your metabolism is low, and that means you're not very hungry.
Yeah.
It's when your metabolism increases that shows you get hungrier. So that's really one of the signs too of intermittent fasting. We have days, you probably know this, that you eat more.
Right.
You're just hungrier that day. It means your metabolism is ramped up and it's working on your behalf. Well, let's talk about kind of how you started.
Mm-hmm.
What did you start with, a daily eating window, and what are you doing now?
I did. So after I listened to her book, I decided to start with 18:6 because since I wasn't a normal breakfast eater, I thought that would be easy. My plan was just to wait till about noon or 1 and start with lunch. And I was going to have lunch and dinner. And if I ended up having a snack in between there or something, then I would. But that was my plan, to kind of eat twice a day. And I did that strictly for the first 5 months of the journey. I did the 18:6. I was pretty strict with that. I would move the window based on what was going on. So if I had something going on in the evening, then I would just wait longer and kind of slide my window later. But I stuck in there. And then after the first 5 months, I decided to go to 19-hour fast. So I just moved like 1 little hour. And then that kind of became my fasting goal, was 19 hours a day. Sometimes I might do 20 or 21. Some days it might only be 17, but almost always, more often than not, was 19 was my goal. And then I didn't really worry about the eating window that much because I knew I wasn't ever going to go longer than 5 or 6 hours. I didn't focus on the eating. It was more like, let's just make the fasting goal. And then I've kind of just remained there the whole rest of the time. I've done 3 mealless Mondays. I've done a couple of short stints of maybe a month long of modified ADF just to try that out. But beyond that, my daily fasting goal is still 19 hours. In the last month, I've started a new part-time job. So I work about 3 days a week, and I don't get home until 3:15. So on those days, I'm waiting longer, and those end up more being like an OMAD day, just because I'm not starting to eat until 3:30 in the afternoon. But on the days that I don't work or on the weekends, my goal is just always 19 hours. So it moves. It's a little bit different, but it hasn't really drastically changed in the year that I've been doing it.
When did you give up your soda pop addiction or
At
habit?
the end of it was an addiction, and at the end of May was when I was completely 100% done. When I was not a coffee drinker, so the whole way I got started drinking a pop to begin with was back when I had my first child. I needed caffeine and I didn't like coffee, and so that's when I started drinking pop. And I actually started with regular soda. And then as the years went on, I decided to switch to diet because I thought that would be better for me, and it's not. But so 19 years of drinking soda every single day got me to where I ended up. And then, so when I started intermittent fasting, I still wasn't really a coffee lover. If I ever did have coffee, I would have it with creamer and sweeteners and all of these different things. So I started with, okay, I need a little bit of caffeine in the morning. I would choke down about a half a cup of black coffee just to get a little bit of caffeine. I'd switch to water, and then I wait till noon when my window opened, and I was still having pop then during my window. But naturally, with only having a 6-hour window in the beginning, I might only have 1 or 2 cans instead of my 4 to 5 that I was having before. So as those beginning months went on, I thought, Renee, if you're going to finally kick this pop habit once and for all, this would be the time to do it, because you're already have cut the habit down so much. So in May, that was my goal. By the end of May, I wanted to be done. And then I was, and I've never once had another sip ever again. I'll just never go back to it, because it was an addiction for me. I was addicted to drinking the pop.
What are you doing for the burn? Are you getting bubble water? Topo Chico?
So that's the thing. Yes, I drink, well, I have it right here. I drink the LaCroix Pure, the plain LaCroix. I do like, I do like the carbonation. So that I felt like was what I was missing when I gave it up. I drink coffee now. I've acquired the taste. So when I started,
really?
I know. Yes. So when I started at the beginning, choking down like that half cup of black coffee, just the more that I had done it, I might only have 1 or 2 cups each day, but I'm able to drink, a good amount to get my caffeine fix. And then after that, I switch over to the water. And if it's in my window, I'll sometimes have like a flavored LaCroix. I do drink some plain water, but not enough. I like the carbonation.
Yeah. So I like the burn. I'm not a soda drinker, but once I started drinking Topo Chico or something with the fizz in it, I was like, ooh, that's good. Yeah. I have a true confession. I did a terrible thing today. So it is, where are you? Where do you live, Renee?
Minnesota.
That's what I thought. Yep. I could hear.
Yep.
I could hear. I didn't know if it was Minnesota or Canada.
Yeah.
You said about. I could hear the about. So, but we're in the same time zone. So it is almost 10:20 Central Time. Right. And I usually don't open my window till like 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon. It just depends, Mm-hmm. It's way, seldom is it at noon, but sometimes it is. So this morning I have a little refrigerator in my closet. I popped open this thing. It's a Topo Chico, but didn't realize it was the Twist O Lime.
Oh.
And I started releasing insulin, right? Because my body saw 0 calories. Let's everybody get on this page. Right. 0 calories.
Doesn't matter.
And the diet culture would tell you you're fine.
Right.
But the health culture, people who study metabolic health, Dr. Bickman, Dr. Fung, Jen Stevens, will tell you no. It wrecked my day. That was this morning.
Are you hungry or did you eat?
Girl, I had to go downstairs and eat breakfast. My husband was like, who's here? Why do I smell food? I went, a terrible thing. I was like a confession. A terrible thing happened. Yeah. That's what it was. I couldn't have gone through. I was shaky feeling. I was not feeling good because typically I never open my window with just flavors. I open my window with real food, with fats, usually hummus or cheese or a boiled egg or something. So I never tease my palate or tease my insulin, because
Mhm.
just let's go back to the science. Your body recognizes a flavor, insulin is released doing its job. I'm very insulin sensitive, and it brings my blood glucose down. Well, my blood glucose is already probably, let's say, 80 or 90. So it probably brought it down too low because it thought food was incoming. So
Right.
that's for everyone who says, I drink the LaCroix water with flavor, but I'm fine. Or I drink a Diet Coke in my fast and I'm fine. No, you're not.
Right.
I can tell you, I haven't, I mean, I might eat breakfast twice a year, and it's the other time I eat breakfast is if I do a very small window the day before, like fewer than, and I don't count calories, but I'm saying it's probably, I know a few times I've been busy. I had an OMAD, and all I had was, I think, a salad with some hummus. It was nothing. So the next day, I looked at that as a refeed day, and
Right.
that's what we call in the intermittent fasting world to balance. Actually, it upregulates your metabolic rate, despite what the diet culture tells you. It's good for you. So I would listen to my body, and maybe I'm thinking one other time I've had breakfast or two in a year, and it was because of my error of drinking something with a flavor. So
Right.
that's why in the intermittent fasting, the scientific side, we say you can't do it. In fact, Jen, and so we call that, you know this, but for people listening, dirty fasting. Dirty fasting means you're nursing a soft drink or anything with flavor, even if it's 0 calories. It's actually making you hunger, and it's making the battle much harder. So you and I know, Renee, that we can go days. I mean, it's true. We really can if we had to. We could go
Right.
days without eating if we just stayed hydrated. And my big thing now is electrolytes. We're doing that. I'm a lot of my coaching clients do Element, LMNT,
Yes.
because of and there's an unflavored one I put in my water usually every morning, and that helps just keep you balanced. So, because a lot of hunger is based on you electrolyte imbalance. Did you notice that in the beginning?
I did. I got some of the pink Himalayan salt because I
Yeah,
was reading about that and seeing that on the Facebook groups. And I think I got it more to, I heard that it made the coffee less bitter. And
that's
so,
what I've heard.
yeah. And so I tried that a little bit. I didn't use a ton of it. So I guess I don't really pay attention. I must be in balance with my
Good.
electrolytes overall most of the time. I don't feel like I need to do much with that, but I did in the beginning use a little bit of that salt. Yep.
But you don't now.
I don't. No, I mean, I
No,
just regular salt on my meal, like
yeah.
when you season and stuff like that, but I don't do anything additive. I don't take
Okay,
anything,
now
honestly.
not even for thyroid?
Nope, because I never had a thyroid issue. I went in thinking because my mom, and when I was starting to gain that weight, I was going in and I mean, I still to this day, whenever I have my yearly exams, they still check everything just because I have that history with my mom. But no, nothing was wrong with my thyroid. I've even had a thyroid ultrasound. They've done all of that,
Okay.
not just they've done all of that. So it was fine. So no, I don't take anything yet.
So just because I am a thyroid advocate and I consult the medical healthcare providers on it, so you're not constipated, cold, hair doesn't fall out, outer third of your eyebrows, you're not losing, your skin's not dry, your nails aren't splitting, you don't have low libido, depression symptoms, weight gain.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
probably have 8 out of 10 of those things.
Well, then
Yeah,
in the health coaching world, we say, so because just as a defense of people who have to take thyroid medicine, it's not a
right,
drug; it's a replacement.
right,
So I just say this because with the hundreds of women who I've consulted with in 20 years, even before I had any kind of certification, because I'm one of those people that if there's something to study, I know my stuff, like just the way I'm wired. With those people, if mama has it, daughter has it. If dad has it, the gene pool's tainted, is what my original doctor told me. So I've never forgotten
Right.
it. So I have it, and both my daughters have it, and my mother
Which
had
is
it.
why I keep checking it every single year, because that's what I have always felt is like, I'm just waiting for it. I'm
Well, you
waiting.
look at it, and this is for anyone listening. Again, not medical advice, but look at your thyroid antibody panel, and
Yep.
then look at T4, T3, free T4, free T3, TSH. I mean, TSH and cholesterol. If your cholesterol
Yes.
comes up, it's typically, it's very often connected with low thyroid.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just telling you, you
Yep.
look fine. You don't look tired. You don't look puffy. You're
Well,
blonde.
I used to be before
well,
intermittent fasting though.
yeah,
I was tired all the time. That was my big
yeah,
complaint, was I
yeah,
was constantly tired for about, 15 years of my life.
yeah.
And I was puffy. I lost 10 pounds in that very first month, but
Wow.
it wasn't fat. It was all inflammation
Inflammation.
and water weight.
Yeah.
My face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds thyroidy, but again, you may be
I'll
fine.
keep checking it.
Okay. And
Yes.
I'm also saying for other people listening, sometimes there's not a lab value that correlates to how we feel. And
Right.
especially if a woman goes back, it took me 4 years to get diagnosed, because first it was 10 pounds and it was 15. So they really patted me on the leg, and I said I was tired, and I was homeschooling my kids at the time. They go, "That's why you're tired." I go, "No, this is a different fatigue." And
Mm-hmm.
so I just want people to listen to patients, any healthcare provider. And I know a lot of times their arms are tied because of insurance, third party pay, and some other things. It makes it
Right.
difficult for them to go outside that. And that's why I love functional medicine so much, finding out why you're sick. So I really kind of have that as advice for anyone listening, that please be an advocate for yourself, because no one else will. And the
Right.
15 minutes where you're with the healthcare provider, and that's why I go to a nurse practitioner who specializes in female hormones, and this is a hormone. Thyroid's a hormone,
Right.
just as insulin is, and vitamin D, and
Yes. And
estradiol
so
and
many
testosterone.
things.
That's right. So
Yes.
many things, so many
Yes.
communicators with our body that need to be in sync. So
Right.
that's just real important. Which brings me to another hormone that part of my health coaching now is based on intermittent fasting, lowering your
Mhm.
insulin, right, and sleep. Those are kind of the two goalposts I talk about. But the other one is sunlight. You are in the northern, almost, you're almost to the North Pole. What do you do? And I know it's the state of 10,000 lakes, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I know with lakes, a lot of times they're with water, a lot of times I think of sunlight, but what do you do about getting sunlight in the darker days of winter?
Um, well, believe it or not, I mean, when you live in a state like ours where we have winter that's cold every single year, we just do a really good job of embracing activities that the cold brings. So, my husband, better than myself, get out and walk all winter long. I
Good.
don't if it's freezing, like, wind
What's
chill. And
cold, right? What's cold to you? And I'll tell you what's cold to me.
so cold to me is if it's super windy. I hate wind all the time, even if it's 85 degrees. But if it's very windy and if it's below 20 degrees. So if it's 25, if it's 30 right now,
Oh,
that's amazing.
that's a heat wave.
Um, well, right, yes. So we walk a lot. We have 2 dogs, so we like to walk a lot. So we'll get outside in the daytime and do that. We have a cabin in northern Wisconsin, and we'll do some snowshoeing. Just whatever you can outside. But I mean, just naturally, the days are shorter in the winter, and so the
Right.
sun. But they're getting longer now.
Yes. Oh, thank God. Well,
Yes.
one thing, if you think about it this way, so the vitamin D that we get from the sun is so valuable. Everybody quit listening to people that tell you not to get out in the sun. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But you get the reflection from the snow that probably helps you absorb it better. I mean,
Probably.
right?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it's brighter. So it may actually help you and help, because that's it. Vitamin D levels get low, you get depressed, you gain weight, you get sick.
Right.
There are just a million things that happen that you people have probably ancestrally kept generations alive by everybody's outside
Right.
walking in 20-degree weather because there's snow outside. You're going to get some reflection from the snow.
And then when the weather's nice here in spring, summer, and fall, we're outside constantly. We have a pool, and we go out on the boat and the lake, and
Yeah.
I mean, we really soak it in then. But you just have to learn when you live in a colder climate to get out and just really make the best of what you have. Otherwise, you'd be inside for 5 months of the year.
Yeah, that's true. And I just read the other day, and this would make sense for you. We build up our vitamin D bank, and that's how we get through winters. So
Right.
you probably absorb a lot in milder weather where you are able to be outside spring, summer, and fall. And
Yeah.
then you bank it until it's probably April before you see a thaw, right?
Right. March, April. Yeah.
March,
I mean,
April.
it depends on the year. And then, try to get on a vacation, once a year. So I'm going to go to Florida here at the end of March with some friends.
Yeah.
So I'll get a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
break there where I can enjoy some warmth and sun. And then hopefully not long after that, it will start turning a corner here. But gosh, once it's 40, after you've gone through the whole winter, when it gets to 40,
you're in a bikini at 40.
I wouldn't go that far, but it feels really nice. 40. And it's funny because in the fall, 40 feels really cold. So after you've come off the summer,
you're right.
The 40 in the fall feels cold, but 40 in the spring feels nice. So,
and the reason I'm focusing on this is because I really want my platform to include not just intermittent fasting, but part of health really is embracing the sun. I mean, I tell every client I meet with, whatever you do, because today we have sunlight, because we do the South sometimes, just because of right where we are, we do get a little touch of some rain or sleet or snow or something. It's very slight, and the whole state shuts down, and it's terrible. It's like the beginning of the pandemic. It is shut down. But we also then balance ours with some brighter days. So we have a bright day today, but I did wake up, it was 30. I'm like, I'm not going out there until it's 40. So I get it. But the sunlight is so important for everybody listening, no matter what your persuasion is with eating. Now let's talk about your husband. How did he get involved, and how's he doing?
He's doing great. He started about 3 months after me. And it's funny, in the beginning when I started intermittent fasting, he was like, there's no way I would ever be able to do that. And he is an eater. He's always home office, even before the pandemic. That's what his job has always been. And he is like, get up and eat breakfast right away. And then he would come out of his office like 9-10 in the morning, and he would have like his second breakfast. And then he would come out of his office at like 12 and have lunch. And then he would come out in the afternoon and have his snack. And then we would have dinner. He was an all-day eater. He likes to eat. And so he said, there's no way I would ever be able to do this. And honestly, I thought he probably wouldn't be able to do it. Like, really? I didn't, because he did like to eat so much. But then about 3 months into my journey, he started dabbling with it a little here and there. And then now he is the king of OMAD. He fasts longer than I do each day. He can eat a lot. So OMAD isn't great for me because I just don't have a big appetite.
OMAD is 1 meal a day for anyone who doesn't know. That's right.
Okay, sorry about that. I can't eat a large volume in one sitting. I just can't. I get full quicker. So I feel like I need more hours to stretch things out to get enough in. He can eat a lot of volume. So it's kind of been his go-to and what he does most days. And he's probably lost 25 pounds. He didn't have as much to lose as I did. He's 6'1", and I think he was about up to 225-ish. He's under 200, so maybe more than 25, maybe he's lost 30. I think that he looks great, and he feels better. He was a big snorer, and that has gone away. He was heartburn all the time. He would take the over-the-counter acid reflux medication. Does not do that anymore. I mean, he's had some really great non-scale victories since starting intermittent fasting for him that have been amazing to watch.
Have you seen the warning labels now on those over the counter or any of the heartburn medicines?
No,
It
I
is,
haven't.
it
I'm
can
just
be,
glad he doesn't take them
he
anymore.
doesn't, right? You're
Yeah.
fine.
Yep.
He's good. But people who take that, if there's any impetus, it would be that you would start a fasting regimen just for that. I would
Right.
say do it.
Yeah,
I
he
would
said it's
say,
been life-changing. And for me, I was a almost daily ibuprofen taker. I've had chronic knee pain, and back when I was inflamed and retaining so much water on top of like the obesity, my knee ached all the time. I had headaches regularly. I took ibuprofen all the time. I cannot remember the last time I've needed to take
wow.
ibuprofen now in this last year. And that changed very quickly. I mean, I would say within the first 2 months, even just getting that initial 10 pounds off, like I said, which was not fat loss, you know that it was just water and inflammation. It made a world of difference for me. And so just those things, over the counter things, just being able to eliminate daily things like that, I think are so huge. So huge.
Well, let's talk about how many children do you have, Renee?
3.
And then
My oldest
what
is
what are their ages?
20, and then 18 almost, and then 15.
So are they mad that there's not a 24-hour feed bar there at the house anymore? Are they okay with, hey, mom and dad are weird, they're going to eat just one big meal and be done with it?
No, I mean, they can still eat all day. They still
They
eat
just have
like
to fix their own.
like teenagers eat, or I'll even
Yeah.
make it. I'm good about making it. I'll say in the very beginning, we didn't tell them what we were doing, and because they were teenagers and they're self-absorbed, they didn't even notice. They're and they're at
Right.
school during the daytime, so if we're not eating, but then at
Yeah.
night we're always having dinner together. We went a long time without them even really noticing what we were doing. And now we've talked to them about it, and they're well aware, but it doesn't affect them. And I was actually just having a conversation with my son on the way to school the other day, and I told him, this is not something that you even need to worry about right now. And I didn't either when I was your age, because your body isn't worn out yet. But someday, if you ever get to the point when you're in your 20s or 30s, and all of a sudden things start not feeling right, or you're now gaining weight and things aren't working the way that it used to, you're going to know much sooner than I did what you can do when it's so easy. It really overall is an easy thing to do. My husband hates the word easy because he doesn't think that he hates when people always say that it's easy. But when I try to explain to him, when I say easy, I'm not saying that it's not asking for effort, but you don't have to buy anything. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to do, those are the things that make it overall easy. It's just a window of time.
Completely agree. Completely
Yeah.
agree. Saves you money.
Right.
And Renee, it's freeing that
Right.
I'm not, in the beginning, you got to ask the questions. Well, how many macros are you eating, or how many calories are you eating? And the freedom is, I don't know. I listen to my body. And if I need that's it. Sometimes people will see that I might eat a lot in one sitting, but then I'm done for the day. Right.
Right.
Or I might, if I were out someplace, I might have 2 hamburger patties on lettuce. Gluten really bothers me, though I'm an addict, so I have to be careful. But I might have more protein on my plate than someone else will. Well, are you counting macros? I go, no, I'm listening to my body. My body's saying I need more animal fat. I need more animal protein.
Right.
How do you know that? How can you hear it? And I went, oh, it's loud and clear.
You crave it.
Yes, that's it. You crave it. That's a great way to put it. My body needs more protein, or yogurt or sauerkraut or fermented vegetables, and it craves it, and it never did before. That's one of my favorite things. One of my clients said, who's lost 90 pounds, and he lost it in, like, he's a famous chef in the state of Arkansas. The first 6 months, maybe he lost 90 pounds. And he called me one time and he said, "Dadgum you, Lisa Fisher." I said, "What?" He goes, "I'm craving Brussels sprouts." He said, "I've been a chef for 40 years almost. I've never craved a Brussels sprout." And I went, isn't that crazy when you listen to your body?
Right, right. And that it has been so much of my journey too, is the learning to listen to your body and be mindful. So when I said I wasn't a big eater, or that I ate a ton, but I would still do what Americans do. And I would, we're watching Monday Night Football and we would eat snacks, so it wasn't like I was, not ever eating. But once I did all this research and reading at the very beginning, my goal was to really pay attention. Am I actually hungry? Am I full? Just paying attention. And it's amazing when you do pay attention how far less you do eat. At night when you watch Monday Night Football, you'd actually don't need to have a plate of nachos, and you're just fine. And then like you're talking about the cravings, you start to tune into like, oh, I'm not I have to really be in a mood for a steak, but there have been a few times during this year where I just really wanted a steak. And obviously I was needing something in there to go get it. So you do just start to kind of crave different things. And overall, I would say my diet in the last year, as far as what I eat, hasn't changed a ton, but it has changed some in the fact that I crave more healthy things more often, and I crave the junk less without even trying.
Right.
It just
listening
happens.
to your body. Yeah,
right.
Totally, completely. It's an elimination process our body does of what, and is it window worthy? That's what we always ask as intermittent fasters, meaning in our window, do I want to, because I can't really consume more than I can consume. I know that
Right.
sounds like a vague statement, but you know what I mean? I physically can't overeat. It would pop out of my mouth. Like it would come out of my ears. I just can't overeat. So if I'm going to eat and you say, do you want a piece of Italian cream cake or do you want ice cream? Well, I love Italian cream cake. So I'm going to pass on this to have this. So it's just honing in what I really desire. What about alcohol? Is that an issue for you?
Yes, but alcohol was an issue for me before intermittent fasting. I was finding in my 40, I'm going to be turning 47 here in 2 months. So in my early 40s, and I think this is when all these hormone things started changing for me. I was having wine was a really big one. I wouldn't sleep well. I didn't have to overdrink wine either. I could even just maybe have 2 glasses. I would sleep really bad. My heart would be racing in the nighttime. I was noticing that well before intermittent fasting. So then once I started intermittent fasting, I don't have wine at all anymore. I've just decided it's not worth it. It doesn't sit well with me. So when I do have alcohol now, it might be like a seltzer, like a White Claw type seltzer or a vodka soda water.
Yeah.
I can handle those things, but I have them much more sparingly. And it's not because necessarily like I'm not going to have the alcohol because I'm worried about the weight. It's more just because of my window and what it allows. So it's usually just special occasions now. If, we just had Super Bowl Sunday, I had some drinks then. If it's, a holiday or out to dinner with some friends. But before, I would just have a drink in the evening just to have a drink. And I used to like to drink margaritas. Mm-hmm. I mean, just, you could buy those home margaritas in a bottle where it's already pre-mixed. I mean, that's just a whole glass of sugar.
It is.
And I used to drink those daily, so it's just funny how that's all evolved over time, but it really did stem a lot from not sleeping well. It just didn't serve me well at night.
And I think the older we get, the worse that gets.
More sensitive
really
to
can't,
it.
Yes. I'm not mad at myself. It just looks fun to have a glass of wine, but at 2 a.m. when I wake up for an hour and a half, I'm not worth it. I'm saying 1 glass of wine. So I don't know if it's the wine. And then I tried to have a vodka tonic last week. Same thing. I mean, it woke me up. So, and not that I have to have it, but it does sound good sometimes. And I do like the flavor. And I like on a Friday night to have something, but it's just my body can't take it. We built a home in Little Rock a few months ago, and we have a beautiful view of the Arkansas River. So the first thing everyone asks when they come here, they go, I bet you're on this deck every night having a glass of wine. And I go, no, because my window closes at about 5. And if I had it at 5, then I'd be asleep by 7:30. But it's just so funny. It's how people connect life and social events. And it's that late night glass of wine. and that's one thing people ask me too, is they go, oh my gosh, well, I just signed a client today, signed up. He goes, now I like wine. I go, well, I don't care what you like. I'm not the judge of what you consume. But I want to say, but the longer you do it, the less you'll be able to probably fit it in.
Right. And on that note, funny enough, my husband was a big red wine drinker. Every night he would have red wine sitting in the chair in our
Right.
room watching the
Right.
news, and
Right.
that's how he would end his night. So when he started the intermittent fasting, he said to me, I'm not giving up my red wine. I will open my window at 2 p.m. so that his window could go way late into the evening to
have
include
that
his
wine.
wine. And he did that in the very beginning. And do you want to know what? That is not what he does anymore. And he rarely ever has wine, because as time went on, he shifted back his window. He has more of a, same thing, late afternoon into the early evening type window. And unless it's a special occasion or something like that, he's not drinking wine at 10 at night anymore, like he thought he was going to want to continue doing. So it is funny how all that just changes.
I kind of want to drop the mic right there, because to me, that's the most profound thing you said. And it's the first pushback I'm telling you with people. The guy today, a lady 2 days ago, well, I like to sit and drink my wine. I want to say you do now, but your tastes and desires change when you eat in a time restricted period.
100%.
I don't understand how our body, what things we desire and what things we don't desire anymore. But I know every person has that same story.
They do.
Yeah, I'm not like your husband. That right there helped him. That part of that acid reflux and all was that red wine every day.
Yep. Every night,
and
right
that
before
late
bed. Yes.
Yeah.
Right up to bedtime.
Yeah. He feels so much better.
Yes, he does. He really does.
And yes, so he doesn't have probably the sleep apnea or disruptions he had, because we know that snoring is a disruption of our REM sleep and sleep. That's why people spend thousands of dollars going to sleep clinics and all. And I'm like, well, just, eat in a 4 or 5, 6 hour window and watch that go away.
Yeah.
But he's more rested in the morning. And then think about the other thing, that he was probably tired all the time, but because he's probably, the warrior beast, he's not going to show it. Eating all day makes you tired. No one tells you that.
No. Yep. And he ate all day long. He really, really did. It's just, that's why when he said, I don't think I'd ever be able to do that, I sort of agreed with him, because I thought it would be very hard for him. And it was a transition for him. It was hard for him to skip breakfast, because he was a person that just woke up hungry. It wasn't as hard for me, but it was kind of a hurdle for him. But after he worked through that and settled in, like I said, he's the king of one meal a day. And he's just kind of found his little niche of what he wants to do.
When I was first introduced to it, I was introduced to an 18 and 6. Didn't know there was another type. My son just said, you just don't eat tomorrow till noon and then eat till 6. Okay. But I used to get up at 3:45 or 4 in the morning because I was on the radio. So I would get up at 4 a.m. and have a 3-egg omelet with avocado, and all real self-righteous about it, high fat, low carb, have my hot tea with stevia and heavy cream. So I would eat at 4 a.m. when I would get off the air at 9 a.m. because someone told me I needed to eat some protein to keep my metabolism burning. A lie. Then I ate, and I'm not exaggerating, I ate at noon, and I thought all morning what I was going to eat at noon, because I just keeping that insulin up. Right. At 3, I had a snack, and then I cooked dinner for my family at 6 o'clock. Girl, I was worn out. Yeah. I was worn out from eating every day, and I never thought that I could reduce my food intake, because I really had trained my body. So I did have those not the first 2 days. I was fine because I could sleep in on weekend. I was told about it on Friday. So I slept in on Saturday and Sunday morning to 7. No, I didn't have to get up at 4, right?
Right.
So I was 7, I can make it till noon. And then, but I remember the first question I asked my son was, I said, great, I won't eat. I'll just drink this water with the stevia. It was a squirt stevia, the Mio or something. I haven't bought it in so long. I can't even remember. I think it's called Mio. It was a squirt thing. He went, no, And I went, well, it has 0 calories. I was like, back off. You're taking away all the fun in my life and I can't have this too. And he went, well, you're releasing insulin. I was like, what does that have to do with it? So once you understand that, that's what's so paradoxical to what we've been taught. Once you reduce the amount of hours in the day you eat, you're less hungry.
Right.
I know it sounds crazy.
Yep.
It sounds crazy. It sounds crazy.
Amazing.
We sound mentally ill. We sound like we're lunatics when we say it at first.
It does. But also since then, my mom, my dad, my brother, my sister-in-law, all of them have followed suit.
Awesome.
It's been so fun. It's just been fun watching and educating other people and then watching everybody else kind of take the journey too.
I love it. You know how Jen Stevens, there's a Bible verse that says a prophet is without honor in his own hometown. And that is so true. Jen Stevens, because she is the mother, the lay authority, right, on intermittent fasting. Her mother, her mother doesn't do it. I don't think her siblings do it. Her mother's still a lifelong dieter, talks about calorie intake. And we're like, if Jen can't convince you, nobody can.
Right.
Because Jen is convinced. I would wonder if it's 1 million people. I would have to be 1 million people.
She's
a best-selling author.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And then people like you and others who do these podcasts, and you can reach so many people.
I want to.
It's just so, it's exciting.
It was funny last night. My husband and I were talking, and because he's all about the dollar. How much are you spending on this podcast? Because I have a team of people who help me, right? But I said I have podcast sponsors, so it's kind of a wash. I don't make anything. And he goes, well, do you want to keep doing it? I said, well, I don't do it for the money. I mean, clearly. And he said, I can't imagine you not doing it because me telling people and partnering with them on a way to live to better their life is worth the fact that I don't, I break even on my expenses on all this because I love getting the message out. And I don't say that for some altruistic award. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that because that is the truth. The Graham Currys, the Jen. Some people do make great money from it. In fact, we're bringing Jen to Arkansas in March. By the time this airs, it'll probably be after we do that. But we're doing that. I'm not making any money on it. We're doing that, and she's hardly making any money. We're just getting her expenses and whatever ticket sales we can give her because she really wants to do it. Spend 3 days of her life, and she's selling books. I mean, there is an end goal, but people, those of us who've walked this path really want to help other people.
Yes. Yep. And I believe it, which is why it makes following her, you want to do it because she is so genuine and authentic and the whole story and everything that's why when I listened to that very first book, she just calls to you in just such a, I'm just a person just like you who struggled just like everybody else.
She's been there.
Right.
I mean, she says, Renee, she dieted her way to 210 pounds.
Yep.
And she's 5'5". She's 5'5", right? 5'4",
I think she
5'5".
is. Yep. I think she is.
Yeah. And she's a small frame because she's like a 00 in petites or something because her frame is just small. We're all, God made us all
my
different.
Frame is not as small as that.
That's not either. But and you know what? Yeah. I'm fine with it. I was the bottom of the pyramid for some reason in high school. It was right there because 5'8", I could carry everybody else. Well, Renee, you're a delight. I love what you're doing. Keep telling people. It's an evangelistic tool, we call it in the fasting world. So keep your fasting evangelism. You're doing a great job.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.